Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, whether you're tuning in on the radio dial in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM. We welcome you all back to our program, as well as tuning in through our online affiliates around the world. We're glad to have all of you with us as well. As you all know, we talk a lot about on this program about the importance of not only identifying your brand, but also building your brand and being able to be respected in the work that you're doing. Our next guest is someone that knows about this a lot. We're excited to welcome Allie Craig to our program today. She's not only a best-selling author, but also a brand expert. She's been able to work with brands of different sizes to be able to help them to not only, of course, to identify the work that they're doing, but also how they can be successful in doing that work. Now, of course, as we know, there's been a lot of talk in the news recently about certain brands and the problems that they've been facing. We'll talk to Allie about what it's been like for her to work with brands that have found problems in their own line of business, and also advice that she has for you all, as well as, of course, how you all can stay connected with the work that Allie is doing. Allie, hello to you, and welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, the pleasure is definitely all mine, Allie. I was so glad to find out about the work that you were doing, and I knew that you would be a great guest, especially during the times that we're dealing with today. Of course, as I mentioned, there's a lot of talk these days, especially about one company in particular, Weinstein Company, and the issues they're having because of work of course, their co-founder and allegations against him. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I want to talk about, first of all, what it's been like for you, Allie, to not only be able to work with brands, but also to help them to identify issues maybe that they're dealing with and ways that they can be able to solve the problems that they've been able to have.
Well, one reason why I love working with brands and kind of coming in with that outside perspective is we all need that. When you're in an organization, especially if you're building it, if you are the founder, you don't see things that the outside perspective gives you. And you need someone to come in and say, hey, this could be a potential issue down the way. This could either be great messaging that you're not utilizing, or there's some interesting brand culture that's going on internally that eventually will get out, because that is always the problem. If there's bad juju going in on the inside of your brand organization, at some point the rest of the world will know about it as well.
Right. And I think we've all been able to see that. And whether we're talking about, I think the thing about your work, too, that I found fascinating, Allie, is that whether we're talking about individuals as brands, that we've been able to see, different things that have not gone right, like campaigns this year that have missed the mark in what they were hoping to be able to do, or whether we're talking about larger corporations like what's happening right now with Weinstein Company as well. I mean, you have over 18 years of being able to, not only, of course, have this branding experience. What is it that first led you in this direction?
I just have to be honest with you. It was pure youth and naivety, in the sense that I was actually doing personal branding work. I was working for an organization when I was 18, and I just got to the point that I saw that the clients we were working with were mainly C-level execs on Wall Street, female women who were trying to break that barrier. And so I think I transitioned into nonverbal communication, and then I was like, I can do this better than my boss. So I started my own company at 18, which, nowadays people start their company at 14, but in the 90s, that was, kind of interesting.
Right. And the other great thing is you've been able to use a variety of platforms, Allie, to be able to get the word out. I mentioned you're being a best-selling author. You're, of course, working as a brand strategist, but also you had your own show, Fix My Brand, with Allie Craig. I mean, have you also found that being able to reach people where they are and being able to give them tips wherever they might be has really helped you in growing your own business and brand?
Definitely, because I think right now people have such a misunderstanding about what a brand is. I mean, when I started this back in the late 90s, people had no idea what a brand is, but that term really wasn't even used. Now it's they're like, oh, I've heard this word, but they don't understand what it really is. I mean, simply put, a brand is just a relationship. It's a relationship between you, your product or service, and your end audience. And so in any normal relationship, just personally, you meet people and you do things with the people that you want to hang out with, what they want to do. It's kind of like a little give and take. And so that's why I like using books and using TV and using different types of media platforms to reach my audience, because this is a relationship between the two of us. And
Right.
You know, it's like you have to kind of meet them and do things together that you both like to do. Like, oh, we both want to go to the movies? Cool, let's both go to the movies. We both like TV? Awesome. Let's meet you there. Let's meet you where you're at.
Right. I think that is the big thing. And again, I think that goes to why, so many people, work hard to try to build up their brands and their reputations to be able to get to where they want to go. I want to say for those who are just tuning in, either on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. We're excited to welcome Allie Craig to our program today. Allie is not only a branding expert, but a best-selling author and an individual who's been able to work with brands of various sizes to be able to not only to achieve their own goals, but also, of course, to help them to be able to grow. Now, of course, problems do arise, and that brings us back to what we were saying earlier, Allie. I mean, you have brands that have been in the news this year in particular who have, had issues with, I think, their messaging in particular. When it comes to branding, the Weinstein Company has definitely been in the news a lot, and I bring this up because I also host a news program here in Mississippi, Allie, and, of course, they've been a lot in the news I've been reporting here for our state. I mean, when you look at what's happened there, I mean, there's been so much that's been talked about whether, they're going to be able to survive, whether they're going to change their name. And even just this week, it being announced that Colony Capital was pouring money into them to try to help them in rebranding. When it comes to if a brand were to come to you, Allie, and say, okay, we have this issue with someone who was either a co-founder or someone who was a board member, and we want to try to move past this, what are some of the tips that you normally would give them about how they could be able to not only, of course, to be able to repair their brand, but also to be able to move forward?
Well, when you're in a crisis management mode for a brand, you have to understand where is the attack really coming from. And the interesting thing about the Weinstein issue overall is that it's affecting more than just the Weinstein Company brand. It is affecting other executives and other companies as well. And so there's, shrapnel basically happening here. And that is really the interesting part of you have to understand where is the root cause coming from and how is it created. So that's the first thing I would want to know. Was it due to ignorance? We just did not understand the situation at hand and a bad situation happened? Is it just that something was going to happen, like an event or an accident or a product malfunctions and, people are hurt or people are injured and the brand itself had no control over it really, but that's not necessarily how the outside world sees it. But in Weinstein's case, that is clearly a culture that was inside that organization that eventually got brought out. So the interesting thing about that whole situation would be, is it really the brand or is it the person? Because when you just look at CEOs, this has happened for years. This is not, it's sad, but this is not anything new to the movie industry or to just corporate. This is not something shocking. What is interesting is the social life that this specific instance is taking on. Because before, you would just handle it in-house. You would do internal cleanup. You would send out a memo. You would say, the CEO is gone. He went to rehab. He will not be returning to us. This is our interim CEO. This is how we're changing internal corporate structure. And that would be on your merry, cute little way. And if you had any external brand, backlash, you would just do a little public relations, happy, nonprofit event or something like that to help kind of clean that up, to basically fix your mistakes, like the oil companies did when we had the oil spills back in 2000s, where they were being shown picking up the trash and picking up the oil from the beaches and helping the animals that were affected. You did public relations and say, look, we're cleaning up our mess. The Weinstein instance is interesting because it's showing people and companies the power of social media that I don't think large corporations understood before now. Because now with the Me Too campaign, this is becoming a social movement that has been spawned. And so it's much greater than I think corporate companies would like, and even brands in somewhat level would like, because that means we can't really control the situation once the issues happened. It means we have to do a lot of, offense, before, let's really try to protect the situation, make sure we don't have a culture that's going to create this, make sure that our brand is strong, that we're solid, we're ethics, we're living up to every single, statute we stand by. If we say that we do green, that we make sure that we're green every single way we can be, because social media is something that no brand, large or small, can control, and that can be very great for your company or very bad for your brand as well.
Right. Right. And I think that is the thing that has made this, as you said, and I should say for full disclosure, Amazon is one of our partners here at Conversations Live, and Amazon Studios announced that they are cutting ties with the Weinstein Company as well. There was, I mentioned earlier, about the infusion of money that came in from Colony Capital. I wanted to share the statement that they actually said, because I want to ask you, again, another question about brands, because a lot of times people think, okay, because you were talking about the cleanup, is throwing money at the situation the answer. One of the things that Colony said about what they were happy to do, it says, we are pleased to invest in the Weinstein Company to help it move forward. We will help return the company to its rightful iconic position in the independent film and television industry. Now, that is what they're saying that Colony is hoping to do. Is throwing money at a situation, Allie, always the answer for a brand when it finds itself in trouble?
No, it isn't. But the interesting thing about the Weinstein instance in particular is, this isn't a brand that most Americans deal with every single day. So what happened, are the allegations horrible? Yes. Is there damage to the brand? Yes. But because it isn't a brand that most Americans go to that store or go and deal with that company, every single day, it's not so detrimental what's happening. So yes, actually infusing some cash and getting new leaders into the organization will help this organization actually survive as a brand. Because in the end, we as moviegoers, the general public, the masses, don't know which movie is really made by the Weinstein Company or not. We're like, oh, we're just going to watch a movie. And that is actually working to this brand's advantage right now. If they were a well-known, if it was Spielberg or some name that really most of Americans knew, that would be a completely different story. Just adding cash, throwing cash to the situation wouldn't fix it.
Yeah. Another thing, of course, that came out as this story continued to grow was, would the company change their name? That is one of the things that Harvey Weinstein has said, was not an option. That's what he said earlier in the week. It brought up an interesting thing. One of the people we talk about a lot on this program, Allie, is Martha Stewart, and she wrote in her book, The Martha Rules, at the time that she was dealing with her issues with the stock sale, that she actually considered changing the name of herself, not her business, but herself, going back to Costira, hoping that it would kind of be able to help to save her business from what she was dealing with. Is it also one of the dangers? Because I think, a lot of times that we talk about on this show, and I know you deal with this as well, that, individuals that become personal brands and everything they do is based on their name. Is that also part of what we see here, is that this isn't just a business, it also is a family that has been kind of, embroiled in this?
It is, and that is the blessing and the curse of when you're using your founder's name as your company. Because at no point can your founder be just a business person anymore, because it doesn't matter about business. It's your business and personal, what you're doing privately, what you're doing publicly, it is all the same, and it all adds up to affecting positively or negatively your company, your brand, and your bottom line. And there is something in names. I mean, we still, you hear certain names and you're like, oh, like we still hear the name Hitler, and we're like, oh my gosh, like, no, you never name your child that ever. That name died instantly, basically. And because names do have power, that's just culturally embedded in us. Because as a society, we've always, even before we had written word, we had names, and we are hardwired biologically to name and categorize, and we are hardwired culturally through our stories that names have meaning and power. And so, yes, when scandal hits, when someone doesn't do what they should be doing, it does affect not just the company and the organization, but it does affect all the other people, either family members or partners within the organization, because nothing's contained. It's just like illness. It's not this perfect little box. Everything kind of steeps and spreads, and you're just trying to control the mess at that point.
Right. You have built a brand, Allie, on, of course, the work that you've been able to do, but also, one of your tags I notice is all about relationships. And, of course, relationships are a big part of what we see happening with the company we've been talking about, Weinstein Company. But also, I think for our audience out there that is building their own brands, realizing those relationships and how important it is to protect them as well. What advice would you give to our audience out there as they are kind of contemplating where they are with their own personal business and brand and moving forward about the importance of protecting those relationships and making sure that those are some of the things that they factor in as they're growing and also being able to go about doing their day-to-day work?
Well, you have to, first off, not have the general mass information about what a brand is and what a brand relationship is. It isn't 9 to 5 anymore. It is your personal and your private. So, yes, if you are known for being super polished and super always on point, like Martha Stewart, and then you're at the grocery store, though that is your private life, and you're like, hey, I'm not on the clock, it's Sunday morning, it still affects your brand and how you're coming across. So you need to make sure there's consistency in all the impressions that you're making. It is not about perfection, but it's about understanding that there isn't a part of your life that you want to hide or is completely and totally different than the rest of it. That if someone would find out about it, they wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, in such a negative way. When you're looking at really building a brand, it is all about the relationships. And the truth is that what society teaches us right now, especially when it comes to like social media marketing and all of these aspects, those aren't necessarily the best traits to truly create relationship, because in the end, your audience really wants to know you and who you are, and you're giving to them more than your service or product. You're truly meeting their fundamental human needs of who they are. They're fulfilling stories that they have about themselves or who they think they should be or what they think your industry should be, and you're also just meeting the fundamental human needs that we all innately have. That is what relationships do for us. That is what your brand relationship should do for your audience. And, of course, you're using your service and product along the way. But when you have that mindset first versus, oh, my gosh, I have to mass email everyone about my sale, or I need to just post on social media about, something that's, all about me, like come get my flash sale or whatever it is. When you're relationship-centered first and you're really, truly, that's your intent in every single piece that you do for your brand. So every single post you put up, every single email you send out, every single, if you meet people in person, every time you go to a networking event, if you're truly focused on their relationship and what are you going to be creating together, that's going to shift the entire intention and your nonverbal communication. And more importantly, they're going to know they're not a mark. No one wants to feel like they're a mark in the sale process. It's going to feel like, no, we are really partners here. They really care about me. And that's what we want, because in the end, as brands, most of us really do care about our audience. We really are passionate about it. My clients know I will defend them and their brand. I jokingly say I'm a co-mama to their brand, because it is a deeply personal experience, and I am so rooting for their success, sometimes more than they are in that moment. But that's what every consumer wants from a brand, and we can all give that to them, because guess what? We're selling to another human being. We're a human being. Wait, we kind of understand how this relationship thing goes. So just think about it as a relationship and kind of forget about the whole, oh, this is a business and I got to, get the sale right now, and those kind of manipulation tactics that we hear so often about.
Right. I think that is so true. What great tips and great reminders for us all, Allie. Again, everyone, Allie Craig has been our guest for this segment. She's not only a branding expert, but also a best-selling author that's been able to work with brands of various sizes to be able to not only to grow, but also to be able to maintain their brands as well. Allie, let our audience know, how can they stay connected with you and kind of keep up with the work that you do and also your services?
You can go, the easiest way, and the most entertaining way, would go to fixmybrandwithallieCraig.com. And that is the TV show website that airs on Apple TV. And so you can check out the episodes, you can see the work in action, and you get to see brands similar to yours, all different shapes, all different sizes, all trying to get themselves and fix their brand so that way they can truly best serve their audience. So who doesn't like to see that good David beat Goliath story? We all love it.
Exactly. So fixmybrandwithallieCraig.com is that website, so make sure you all go there to be able to stay connected with Allie. Allie, congratulations to you on the work that you've been able to do and those that you've been able to help, and looking forward to speaking with you again.
Yes, thank you so much. I so appreciate our time together.
Hey, same here. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. If you all came in late and missed part of the conversation with Allie, don't worry. Thanks to our online friends, you all can catch the replay right after we go off the air. The link is already available through our social media sites. So head over to Facebook.com/CyrusWebb or go over to Twitter.com/CyrusWebb. If you click on the link there, you can listen to the show completely for free and share it with your friends from there too. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Make sure you take out time to enjoy some good music as well as a great book. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. You all make it a great one.